YouTube, how's it going? I am Devesh and today on my channel Sayle Cinema, I'm going to review the 6th and final season of the Netflix political drama House of Cards. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you'd probably be aware of the actions taken by Netflix in the fall of 2017 following the exposure of Kevin Spacey's alleged sexual misconduct just as production was beginning on the final season of House of Cards. So what do you do when the star of your TV show is fired and nearly brings down the entire series with him? For the cast and crew of House of Cards, the answer is simple. Be thankful that the showrunners had the benefit of installing Wright's Claire Underwood as the new president at the end of season 5, setting up a final season with Wright as the lead instead of Spacey. The real question, however, is, does House of Cards continue to be as engaging without the conniving presence of Kevin Spacey? The answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. One of the reasons I found myself hooked onto House of Cards from the very first season was how the show balanced Kevin Spacey's character Frank Underwood's unrepentant narcissism with a refreshing pragmatism and an ability to get things accomplished by hook or by crook, a quality which he shares with his wife. He does what needs to be done in order to elevate his own position in the political ladder, even if that means putting people out of their misery and out of his way with ruthless equanimity. In the last couple of seasons, however, there is no denying that Frank Underwood's character had increasingly become a self-parodying version of himself. It was painful to watch this brilliant character being reduced to a colourful cartoony megalomaniac for whom taking someone's life had become almost as routine as a measure as campaigning, lobbying, making secret deals, approving covert missions, etc., etc. Sure, the character did commit the occasional murders in the earlier seasons. Take for instance the murders of Peter Russo and Zoe Barnes in season 1 and 2 respectively. But these were both carefully thought out, schemed and executed in an almost fail-proof way that placed Frank far beyond the scope of any accusation. Now contrast this with Frank's casual attempt at disposing of a major character in season 5 by pushing her down a flight of stairs, that too in the White House. It was uncharacteristically impulsive and downright sloppy. By contrast, Claire Underwood's character has over time grown to be far more interesting, not because she is as much of a Machiavellian as her husband, but because she is not without her traditional female vulnerabilities. She does come with her own set of emotional wounds, but unlike most damsels in distress that show up on our screens, these wounds serve to legitimize the defense mechanisms and strategies that make up her mask. It's this mask that prevents us as an audience from truly knowing what drives her. Only she knows exactly who she is. She knows exactly how and when to play the woman card, even though her morals may not be defined by any feminist ideology. With all the stately grandeur of a classical heroine with the resolve of female dictators such as Cleopatra and Catherine the Great, Claire Underwood has slowly emerged as one of TV's strongest ever female characters, which is exactly why the show can continue to appeal to even its most loyal fans without Kevin Spacey. Gender, misogyny, oligarchs, autocrats, cowardly politicians, talks of impeachment, reckless social media, and a couple of siblings with an uber right-wing agenda who have enough money on their hands to burn so that they can make their Washington puppets dance. Sounds familiar? More like the nasty toxic political reality of America today. All this feature in the primary storylines of season 6 of House of Cards, but the one storyline that really towers over all others is the one about gender, with Claire Underwood as the first female president of the United States. At one point, she whispers with a characteristic steely edge, "The reign of the middle-aged white male is over." The show directly addresses this cultural moment when patriarchy finds itself under attack and the old guard rises up to stop this impending epic change. The writers and the producers deftly ground the series in the misogyny of political life by opening up the season with a scene showing her aides reading out to her threats from social media, several of which are both graphic and sickly tied to an assault on the female anatomy. All our empathy, or at least our rooting interests, are directed towards President Underwood, even though we know she is as evil as her husband ever was. But there are people in season 6 who seem even more worthy of our enmity than she does. Most prominent among them are Bill and Annette Shepard, played by Greg Kinnear and Diane, the wealthy right-wing brother and sister team who run the Shepard Freedom Foundation and Shepard Industries. Their main motive is to make the first female president of the United States their puppet so that they can pass a vast array of bills that will benefit the rich. The brother Bill feels like the very embodiment of everything that the left would like to believe about the rich, politically active, right-wing money men. Most of all, he becomes this kind of crazy, arrogant, cruel, mocking and entitled face of patriarchy. There's a scene in the Oval Office that will make any liberal's head explode when he tries to establish his dominance over Claire. You hate his guts, but you're equally repulsed by her submission to him. When it comes to his sister Annette, however, she's far less explosive, but when it comes to creating any real damage, she's the more effective one. Lane and Wright are both superb, particularly in scenes when they are trading jibes at each other that are actually masked as pleasantries. It's sort of like watching this dangerous dance between Claire and Annette as they both jostle for establishing control over the White House, and it's just plain dazzling. It's a familiar dance that we've seen before, the scratching and clawing to stay afloat. There's an ever-impending sense of doom as we approach the finale, with all of Claire's enemies ganging up against her, and it's only left to Claire to find an ace in the hole that'll keep her well ahead of her foes. Much of all this feels very reminiscent of the final Godfather film, except this time we have to watch a female Michael Corleone manipulating her way through this brutal bubble of betrayal and blindsiding. Breaking the fourth wall has always been an important fixture in House of Cards. One of the things that I appreciated the most about this season was just how well the showrunners have utilized this plot device to paint a sharp juxtaposition between Claire and her late husband Frank Underwood. The first time we actually see Claire breaking the fourth wall was last season, where she tells us that she knows we're watching, eagerly anticipating what she'll do next, but she doesn't feel the need to engage with us. Well, that's Claire for you. She maintains the same keep your distance attitude each time she feels the need to break the fourth wall with us. She doesn't want to give too much of herself away, because unlike Frank, who readily divulges personal thoughts to us, she wants to keep us on our toes. Perhaps it was Frank's biggest mistake of keeping us in on his secret thoughts that ultimately led to his off-screen demise. Claire knows this, and she's too clever to repeat her husband's mistakes. Season 6 does have a problem, however, and unfortunately it's huge. The ending feels more like a cliffhanger than as a strong conclusion. There are too many questions that are left unanswered. Now I'm all for open endings, but this is not The Sopranos where you can suddenly and unexpectedly cut the screen to black before an anticipated event. The ending feels conveniently rushed, which kind of dilutes all those many hours that we spent with these scheming characters. The ending, quite frankly, robs the audience of any form of closure. While the final season of House of Cards does suffer from a rushed ending, it does make amends for the previous season by finally giving Claire Underwood the much needed spotlight and painting her as this messiah of feminism, albeit under her own terms. It may not be the strongest conclusion ever, but it's a fun ride till it lasts. I'm going with 3 out of 5 for House of Cards Season 6.
It's going to be different for you and me.